When we talk about the shadow, as Carl Jung shows, we are not referring to something external, dark, or evil in the common sense of the word. The shadow is, in fact, an inevitable part of our psyche, the part that houses everything we cannot or do not want to see in ourselves. These are hidden fears, painful memories, prejudices we prefer to ignore, but also repressed talents, desires we dare not admit, and even creative forces we set aside. Jung understood the shadow as the counterpart of the ego, that which is rejected by consciousness but continues to exist in our unconscious mind, silently influencing our choices, thoughts, and behaviors. Recognizing its existence is the first step. Denying the shadow does not eliminate it, it only strengthens it in the depths of the mind. Therefore, understanding what it truly is becomes essential. It is not an enemy to be defeated, but a part of ourselves that cries out for integration. Contrary to what many imagine, the shadow is not merely a repository of weaknesses or flaws. Within it also reside valuable forces that have been forgotten or repressed over the course of life. It is as if part of our true potential is hidden in this dark territory, waiting for the moment to be recognized. Jung said that facing the shadow is like traversing a dark forest. At first, we encounter monsters, fears, and obstacles, but treasures, allies, and the call to our true purpose are also hidden there. Often, creative abilities, courage, assertiveness, or even the capacity to love more deeply are buried in the unconscious, trapped in the shadow because at some point in life they were not accepted or valued. Therefore, the shadow can be seen as the guardian of hidden power. Those who dare to traverse it discover not only their limitations but also a reservoir of extraordinary possibilities. The challenge is having enough courage to walk through this darkness and claim what is hidden within. Ignoring the shadow may seem more comfortable at first, but in practice, it comes at a high price. Everything we repress within ourselves does not disappear, on the contrary, it gains strength in the unconscious and begins to act uncontrollably in our lives. It is as if the shadow takes the wheel when we least expect it. Often, this manifests as emotional outbursts, disproportionate reactions, or even prejudices that we project onto others without realizing it. Jung called this mechanism projection. What we refuse in ourselves, we end up seeing exaggeratedly in others. How many times do we blame someone for a behavior that actually reveals an aspect of ourselves that we prefer to deny? This is one of the most dangerous risks of the shadow. When we fail to recognize it, it begins to steer our behavior invisibly. And the more we insist on not seeing it, the stronger it becomes. Therefore, denying the shadow is like giving power to a silent enemy, an enemy that, deep down, is part of us. Facing the shadow is not just an isolated psychological exercise but an essential step within what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming a complete human being. The journey of shadow integration is like traversing unknown terrain, arduous, uncertain, but profoundly transformative. Jung stated that there are no shortcuts on this path. It is necessary to dive into the parts of ourselves that we avoid, to face fears, resentments, and vulnerabilities we would rather keep buried. This dive is not meant to eliminate the shadow but to integrate it, bring it into consciousness, and learn to live with it in a balanced way. It is a work of internal reconciliation, where light and darkness are no longer conflicting forces but form a greater unity. By accepting our shadow, we become less enslaved by unconscious impulses and more conscious of who we truly are. This is the true heart of the individuation process, integrating what was rejected so that we can finally experience genuine wholeness. But how, in practice, can we work with the shadow? Jung developed and inspired several approaches that allow deeper contact with the unconscious. One of the main methods is active imagination, a technique in which the person connects with inner images, symbols, and characters, allowing hidden content to surface in the form of dialogue. Another valuable path is dream analysis, since dreams are direct entry points to the unconscious. By recording and reflecting on their images and symbols, we can perceive aspects of ourselves that normally do not emerge during waking life. Additionally, keeping a reflective journal is a simple and powerful practice. Recording emotions, thoughts, and recurring patterns helps us recognize when we are repeating old habits guided by the shadow. Meditation also plays an essential role, as it trains us to observe our own thoughts without judgment, creating clarity and space to better understand our automatic reactions. And of course, nothing replaces the depth of a process conducted with a Jungian therapist, someone prepared to guide us through this complex territory safely and supportively. Working with the shadow, therefore, is a continuous practice that combines discipline, courage, and openness to the unknown. The shadow does not manifest only on an individual level. Jung warned us about the existence of a collective shadow, which arises when entire communities, nations, or even humanity as a whole project onto others what they do not want to see in themselves. This is why we witness widespread prejudices, hate speech, wars, and historical persecutions. All these phenomena are expressions of the collective shadow. When a group chooses a scapegoat to blame for its problems, it is, in fact, projecting its own darkness onto another. This is one of the most dangerous aspects of the shadow because when shared, it gains devastating force, capable of driving entire societies to acts of destruction. Recognizing the collective shadow is, therefore, a fundamental step not only for personal growth but also for building a more conscious world. Every time we integrate our individual shadow, we reduce the power of this dark collective unconscious, contributing, even subtly, to a more balanced humanity, less enslaved by its own darkness. At the end of this journey, what do we truly gain by confronting our shadow? Jung believed that the greatest gift is not external success, nor material achievements, but the discovery of the soul, the possibility of becoming who we really are. Integrating the shadow leads us to rare authenticity, because we no longer need to hide parts of ourselves. We gain clarity, inner strength, and a deep sense of wholeness. Jung used the metaphor of the tree to illustrate this process. Just as a tree grows following its own natural laws, each human being has a unique path to follow. But for this growth to be complete, its roots must sink into both light and darkness. Denying the shadow is like amputating half of our nature. Integrating it, on the other hand, is reclaiming our full potential. In the end, the shadow is not an enemy, but the key that opens the door to our true hidden power. And it is precisely when we accept this key that we begin to live a more meaningful, creative, and truly whole life. Now, I want to make a special invitation. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you resonated with this message. So tell me, when you think of your own shadow, what is the first aspect that comes to mind? Is it a fear, a memory, a hidden strength, or perhaps something you still cannot name? Write it in the comments. Do it as a symbolic act of bringing to light what usually remains hidden. By sharing, you not only strengthen your own journey but also inspire others reading to realize they are not alone on this path. So take a deep breath, feel whatever arises now, and write it down. Your shadow may reveal itself at the exact moment you put it into words. And if this video resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. Together, we expand this awareness and illuminate territories that once seemed impenetrable. Thank you for being with me on this journey. And remember, the shadow is not the end, but the key to your hidden potential.